Tonight on CTV News, diversity demonstrations on the plaza have people talking about social identity. Plus a look at the Pow-Wow put on by the Native American Culture Center on campus.
Sports anchor Olivia Landis visits the CSU Disc Golf Club sport and learns more about the nationally ranked team. All this plus weather and sports. Good evening, I'm Grace Reeder.
And I'm Emma Yannicone, filling in for Carson Bushjost. Protests were held all day throughout campus today to protest collegiate opinion article titled "On the Topic of White Privilege." The demonstrators were out to raise awareness and education about social identity.
Recognize your head start! Come on, people, have a heart!
Protesters and demonstrators took CSU's campus by storm today, voicing their opinion about a collegiate article on the topic of white privilege. The opinion article discusses how white privilege is not necessarily true in America, and that people should rather use the term American privilege, where all people with different social identities are given the same opportunities. But demonstrators do not agree.
It upset a few people because it didn't fully capture the spectrum of what it really means to have privilege and not have privilege.
Emma Roust from Social Work explains her thoughts on privilege.
You have sometimes an advantage that you might not be aware of, that you're just born with, and it makes you, like me as somebody who's white, I'm safer if I run into a police van than some other people. But as a woman, I'm not as safe at night as some men.
The main goal of the demonstration was to educate about diversity and discuss how some people are born with traits that gives them advantages.
So many different social identities, and some of those identities may leave us feeling marginalized or privileged. It's a spectrum. It's not that you're one or the other. And when you have more privilege, we want people to become aware and become allies and understand what it is.
The publicity around the opinion article was unforeseen, with hundreds of comments and tweets by people voicing their own opinions of the piece, both negative and positive. Collegiate opinion editor Haley McGill wants people to remember it was just an opinion article.
As unpopular as it was, it's not a very good reflection of the publication as a whole, just because so many different things come out of the opinion desk that you can never really, be like, oh, that's what the Collegian thinks.
She also believes the protests and publicity, in the end, may generate some good from it.
None of this stuff would have happened, and I think it's a really important conversation for the campus to have, because clearly people had really strong feelings and opinions about it that they weren't talking about.
The collegiate article and demonstration on the plaza has certainly seemed to increase discussion on the topics of social identity. If you'd like to express your opinion on the topic, you are encouraged to email letters@collegian.com.
ASCSU and CSU are contributing more money. Over the first half of 2015, both the Denver-Boulder-Greeley Consumer Price Index and transport bus ridership have increased. Due to this overall increase, ASCSU must pay an additional $8,000 this year. That means the total amount that ASCSU must pay transport is over $828,000 for the 2015-16 school year. CSU is transport's second largest source of revenue, with the city of Fort Collins being first. Fort Collins provided transport with $7.9 million in 2014.
CSU has been placed on the Platinum Bicycle-Friendly University list. CSU is one of the only 5 universities to be recognized by the League of American Bicyclists. The university has more than 23,600 bikes registered on campus. The many amenities for riders on campus have added to the CSU's commitment to bicycling on campus.
Larimer County saw a decade-low voter turnout this week. According to the Larimer County Clerk and Recorder Angela Myers, 39.53% of registered voters casted ballots. While the voter turnout is low, Fort Collins residents did show big support for ballot issue 2B on Tuesday. A Fort Collins-specific initiative, the measure allows City Fort Collins to pursue plans to provide municipal broadband services. Ballot 2B passed with 83% of the vote.
The proposed budget for the 2016 fiscal year by Governor Hickenlooper comes with some significant cuts. The state budget will chop $373 million in total, $20 million of which will be cut from higher education. CSU in particular will see a loss of $3.78 million. CSU President Tony Frank addressed the cuts in an email to students and staff, stating that if the budget passes, he will look into deferring and reallocating costs.
The CSU Native American Cultural Center has been busy at work to host the countless events they'll be hosting for Native American Heritage Month. Traditionally, the month starts with an annual powwow, where many Native American tribes gather and celebrate their heritage. On Saturday, the Native American Cultural Center kicked off their Native American Heritage Month with an annual powwow.
We typically kick off the month with our big powwow. It's a fairly large event. It's one of the biggest powwows in this region around this time. So definitely has a lot of draw from Fort Collins community members, students, as well as even in the Denver area.
The event is meant to remember and celebrate heritage, as well as to teach students, staff, and community members a little bit about what a powwow looks like. There will be many events going on during the month to celebrate Native American heritage. One of those events is a hip-hop concert on November 12th.
Frank is a Lakota hip-hop artist, and he was actually featured on MTV's Rebel Music this summer.
There will be plenty of other events during the month, so be sure to check them out. All events are free and open to the public. To see exact dates and times of events, visit www.nacc.colostate.edu. Coming up next, Sierra Symes with the latest Fort Collins weather forecast.
She'll let us know if this warm weather will stick around. Stay tuned.